Queen of Shells here. Today I'm going to show you my tarot collection. Although I am still pretty new to tarot, I do have a pretty decent sized collection going. I am a person who likes collecting things, so the artwork in tarot decks and oracle decks is what kind of got me interested in it in the first place. So I've continued to buy over the past probably about a year. I've continued to purchase decks even though I haven't been working with tarot until just recently. Really like working with it. So I'm going to show you all of the decks that I currently have. I do have a couple that are coming in the mail because I'm a compulsive buyer and I buy too many decks, but I'll probably just do maybe a haul whenever I get those. I am getting the wooden tarot, which I'm extremely excited about. I just got the shipment email last night, so I will be sure to show you all that as soon as I get that in the mail. So if you're interested in seeing my collection, stay tuned. The first deck I'm going to show you is my Radiant Rider-Waite deck. This is the back of the cards. And I'm just going to flip through a few of the cards. This is a pretty, common deck. So there's not, it's like all the other Rider-Waite Smith decks. The colors in this one are a little bit brighter than like the Universal. I've kind of had a mixed feelings about this deck, but I'm actually starting to like it a little bit more recently. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm going to flip through all the cards while I'm doing this. I'm just going to kind of go through the top few probably, just to kind of give you an idea of the feel for the deck. And I apologize if my camera goes out of focus during any of this. I can't refocus my camera while I'm filming, so I have to make sure it's focused before I start filming, and that can get it can get a little bit messy while I'm filming. So that again is the Radiant Rider-Waite Smith. The next deck I'm going to be showing is my Chrysalis Tarot deck. This is a pretty pagan themed deck. So if you have a pagan path, this would be a good deck to kind of go for. It's very it has a pretty cool feel to it. I actually just recently started to really get into this deck. It's a newer deck for me, so I haven't worked with it because I haven't just had the time to spend with it yet. But I've been really kind of getting into it lately. So it has beautiful artwork. The lions are really, really nicely done. The artwork in this is probably some of my favorite. Although the feel for the deck, I haven't spent a lot of time with it, but the colors are just my favorite. I will say the back of the deck is a disappointment for me, but it's something that I can get over. I just don't feel that the back of the deck really has much to do with the deck itself. I don't think the colors mix very well, because the front of the cards, it's more of like a neutral kind of look to it. It does have bright colors, but it's not this as bright as these backs. So, and then of course, the border is like a yellow color, so for you to flip the card over and it's got this bright blue, it just can get kind of distracting. But these cards are just beautiful artwork. That's my favorite card in the deck. Gaia for the Empress. She's beautiful. So that's, again, Chrysalis Tarot. And here we have Tarot of the Mermaids. This is also a newer deck for me. I think it is one of my most recent purchases. I bought it because of the mermaid theme. I don't have any tarot decks yet that are, well, I hadn't had any mermaid or sea themed tarot decks, and I had been looking for some for quite a while. As you can see, there is nudity in this, so if that's something that you are not interested in having, this is not a deck for you. It's a low Scarabeo deck, so it does have the multiple languages printed at the bottom. All the cards kind of have a almost like a monotone kind of look to them. They all have the same color palette, like each card will like be a blue theme or a yellowish look. There's the Hangman. This is one of my favorite cards. I do wish it would have said, you know, the Hanged Mermaid or something like that. Or maybe like the Hanged Merman. This does have a border, and I do have some decks that I've trimmed my borders off, but I don't think I'm going to trim this one because it's not a distracting border for me. There's the Hierophant. The Empress. Again, this is the Tarot of the Mermaids. This next deck is the Joie de Vivre deck. This is one of my decks that I have trimmed the border off of. It had a large white border all around the cards, and it was very distracting for me. I know that for some people trimming can be controversial, and they you know, see it as something horrible that they would never do, but I'm a pretty crafty person. I have a background in doing a lot of crafts. So I was confident in myself to be able to trim the cards without messing them up. This is the second deck that I trimmed, so and I have a corner rounder that I use to make the corners nice and rounded so that they don't get bent easily. I much prefer this deck being trimmed. I think it just looks so much nicer, and you can just get kind of much more lost in the cards with it being without having that big white border. This is by Paulina Cassidy. She's one of my favorite tarot and oracle artists. It's just, she has such beautiful artwork. I don't have her Paulina deck yet because I chose to get this as my first deck by her because I heard it was a little bit easier to read, and since I am newer, I didn't want to get something that I was going to be overwhelmed with. And I have to say I really enjoy this deck. I do. I just feel very happy and elated whenever I work with this deck. That card, I love the bird in it. It's a very gorgeous deck. I also have one of her oracle decks that I'll be showing soon. So again, this is the Joie de Vivre deck by Paulina Cassidy. And here we have my other deck that I've chosen to trim. This is the Crystal Visions Tarot. This is a newer purchase, but I have to say that this is a deck I wish I would have bought very early on, because I probably would have gotten a lot more involved with tarot if this had been my first tarot deck that I had purchased. So this is my favorite card in the deck. This is the Queen of Cups. It's kind of self-explanatory why this is my favorite. I love the backs of these cards. I love the artwork on the cards. There's a lot of cards in here that I feel a deep connection with. The theme and the vibe and just the energy that's with this deck is very very fitting for me, and it works very well with me. This has some of my favorite cards that I've seen in any deck. This Tower card, this is one of my favorites, them falling, the tower crumbling into the sea. I just love this image. This is another one of my favorites in the deck, Four of Swords. She looks very peaceful and tranquil. This is another favorite of mine in the deck. She just kind of pulls me in every time I look at this card. The High Priestess. It's just a very joyful deck for me. The Empress, this is one of my birth cards. You'll probably notice me stop on the Empress in most of these decks if we come across it. The Empress and the Hanged Man are my birth cards. The Moon, this is another favorite card of mine. I love the wolves in this image. And the different phases of the moon also, I really like that depiction, the Hierophant. The World, another favorite. And this deck, it's not, as you can tell from this image, it's not all happy and pretty, and you know, there are images that are very powerful in this deck. I pretty much love all the Cups cards. Another favorite. Another favorite. See, as you can tell, I really love this deck. I would recommend this deck to anyone. I also would recommend it as a beginner deck as well. Look at that. That is just so beautiful. So again, this is the Crystal Visions Tarot. Before we move on to the next deck, I just wanted to show this one off really quickly. It was the next card that right as I was ending the recording for the Crystal Visions. This is the Death card. This is one of my favorite Death cards that I've seen. There's also the Devil card in the Crystal Visions that's a favorite of mine, just as an overall favorite of depiction. But I just wanted to show this off really quickly. I love everything about this card. The girl that's laying there, the words that are written on it, the light coming in, the shadow figure in the background with the wings. The Devil card in this deck is also a very good card. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. And here's the Devil card. Beautiful. Next up is my most used tarot deck to date. This is the Shadowscapes. I'm sure most of you who are familiar with tarot are familiar with this deck. The imagery in this deck is stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. I actually just heard Avalon on YouTube speaking about this deck the other day and about her frustrations with the deck, and she was talking about how she wishes that the cards were bigger, and she just kind of gets frustrated with this deck because the artwork is so involved and the cards are it is very restricted, and I can absolutely sympathize with that feeling. It is kind of a shame that these cards are so small because of how amazing the artwork is, and also that there's a border. I can completely understand how it would irritate someone, because this could be such a better deck if those things were fixed, if there wasn't a border and the cards were just a little bit larger. I also would be very interested in having some of this artwork separate from cards, like printed out. It's just astounding artwork. But this is my most used deck. This is the second tarot deck I ever bought. I felt an immediate connection with this deck. I think that it's because it has kind of a water feel for me, and also the purples in this deck. Purple is my favorite color, and obviously water is an element that I work with the most, so I just instantly felt connected to this deck. The Crystal Visions has taken over this place as my favorite deck, but this deck I would never ever be opposed to using this deck. Queen of Cups. She is just so pretty. And I love the turtles. I do plan on getting a Queen of Cups tattoo eventually, and this is one I'm going to take in as kind of a reference image. I'm going to take in several different tarot cards and try to get, you know, something unique done. I wish that my camera would focus, autofocus, so I could bring these a little closer without it getting blurry. So there we have it, Shadowscapes. This deck is actually my first tarot deck that I ever purchased. This is the Wizards Tarot. And this deck, it was a pretty good, this is actually my favorite card in the deck. This is the Fool card. And since this was my first deck, I really connected with this card whenever I started working with this deck. It has kind of a computerized look to it, like a Photoshop kind of look to it. So if that's not something that you're interested in, I would not recommend this deck for you. But it was a pretty good beginner deck. It comes with a pretty good size guidebook. And it tells kind of a story with each card like most guidebooks do. But the stories are pretty intriguing stories, and they were really helpful for me beginning and starting out. Queen of Cups. I actually really like most of the Cups cards. I think they're very well depicted. The Hanged Man, I like that it's not a traditional image of a hanged man, actually. This is my favorite card in the deck, other than the Initiate. I mean, the Initiate's not my favorite artwork, it's just the card that resonated with me the most when I first got the deck. The Chariot. Obviously, being a witch, this is a wonderful card for me. I love the artwork. I think it's probably an underrated deck. It is a pretty good deck. The High Priestess. The story that goes along with her is wonderful. Now we are on my probably most unique deck that I would say. This is the Animal Wisdom Tarot. This is a top deck for me. I just love this deck. It's so unique. Each card is an animal. It's a different animal. All the names have been changed. They're all different. Nothing is traditional named. All of the suits and everything has been changed. The images are wonderful. I love the animal feel and the animal theme. This is one of my favorite cards. This is actually where my name came from, Queen of Shells. This is what would be considered the Queen of Shells card, but they call it Nurturer of Shells. This deck is just in a class of its own for me. I think it's not one that I've actually really heard talked about much. I don't think that a lot of people are familiar with this deck. but it's a great deck, and I would recommend anyone getting it. It can be hard for a beginner. I don't work with this as much as I would like to, just because I want the deck to, I want to be able to get the full experience of the deck. So I would prefer to wait until I'm more familiar with each one of the cards in a tarot deck, so that I can really dedicate time to learning the names and the meanings of these cards, because it is definitely a unique deck. This is my favorite card in the whole deck. Again, it's the Fool card, but this card in particular reminds me of the Norse god Loki. Not just because of the name, not just because of the trickster thing, but just the look of the deck. It really, for some reason, every time I see this deck, I think of Loki. And I don't work with the Norse pantheon at all. This card reminds me of Loki for some reason. This is another favorite card of mine in the deck. I think the whale as the world is a really good depiction. So all the shells are all cups cards. I think the feathers are wands. Fossils are pentacles. And then I'm trying to remember what the swords are. Branches. The swords are branches. I would really recommend everyone going and at least checking this deck out. And these cards are pretty good sized cards. I mean, I can't really get it all in the picture, but they're pretty good size. I can't even fit them all in the camera image, like I have been with my other decks. So again, the Animal Wisdom Tarot. Now I'm going to show you the Housewives Tarot. These cards, I've kept them in the box because they come in a really good sized box. I can't, unfortunately, the way I'm filming, I'm having kind of a hard time I'm on the floor and I'm having kind of a hard time with my camera. It's on just a small tripod, so I can't really fit everything into frame. This comes in a great little box. Comes with a small little book. And the box looks like a little recipe box. It originally comes with these tabs placed throughout. I pushed them all to the back because they're not needed in the deck when you're reading with it. I've only used this deck a couple of times. But the box is just the cutest. So here's the back of the cards. Pretty simple, pretty basic. I'm not a huge fan of these cards, to be honest. I bought them because the whole 50s housewife look appeals to me, but it's not like something that I'm totally interested in. This really was just a deck to add to my collection. It wasn't one that I was looking to work with all the time. I just saw someone on Tumblr that had it, that she loved it. She used it all the time, and so I thought, oh, that's a great deck. I want to get that for my collection. But I kind of knew when I bought it that it really wasn't going to be anything that I personally worked with. The next deck I'm showing, it's going to be the same situation. I feel like these are kind of, since they are themed decks, they're kind of, for me, more just additions to the collection. They're not really cards that I work with. They do have really pretty good cardstock. It's pretty thick cardstock. I mean, they bend kind of easily, but they're still really sturdy. I mean, if the 50s look appeals to you, you absolutely should look into getting this deck. But for me, it just isn't. There's no connection for me with this deck. I just like the theme. And here's the next deck that I was just talking about, the Zombie Tarot. This is another one. It comes in the same kind of box as the Housewives Tarot. It's a nice, sturdy box. Comes with a book on top. It's just a small little book. And then you've got the cards laid out inside there. I'm just going to go through a few of them. So here's the back of the cards. I like the zombie dude on the back. And then this is another one. I love zombies. I am into zombie movies. I'm into zombie TV shows. The whole zombie thing works for me. I love it. But I don't really find myself reaching for this deck at all. I do enjoy working with it. I have worked with it a couple times. And they were good readings. It's just not a deck that pulls me into it. I love the imagery very much. It is a really cool deck in my opinion if you're into zombies. If you're not going to like this deck. But I personally do love this deck. I don't know, I haven't found myself reaching for it very often. I do get excited, though, if somebody asks for me to read with this deck, though. I think that might be my... I tend to like the full cards index for some reason. I don't know why. There's also, I don't know if I'll get to it, I don't remember what card it is. It's a card where there's a lady sitting on a couch and behind her there's zombies trying to get into her door. I can't remember which card it is, but that's my favorite one in the deck. So there you have it, Zombie Tarot. The last tarot deck that I'm going to show before we get into my oracle cards is the Law of Attraction Tarot. This is a brand new deck for me. I am just now kind of looking at the cards and kind of trying to learn the meanings. This is a pretty unique deck. All the suits have been changed. All of the king, queen, all those. Well, I'll just start to show you the cards. As you can see, they don't have names. Like these, the major arcana just has numbers. These are actually going to be in order because I'm keeping this deck in order until I've spent some time with it. The imagery, it's not, some of the cards are not my favorite since I've been kind of looking through these and reading the book, and I'm kind of coming across some that I'm not too into. It is very unique. The take on some of these cards are unique in this deck. Like that's just, I don't know. That's the One of Cups. Or Ace of Cups. I'm not really sure what this card's supposed to be telling me. But as you can tell, it has all the suit cards have a number at the top and then a symbol at the bottom. They don't have words on them. So you have to learn what each one of these symbols mean. Kind of go through and like there's the coins. That one's kind of pretty easy to learn. The wands. 8 of Wands, and then the swords, 2 of Swords. So you kind of have to learn what each one of these symbols mean, but the deck, I don't know, I'm not Not really sure how I feel about it yet. It is a unique deck. I just don't know if I'm gonna like it just yet. But maybe I'll do a review on it once I work with it a little bit more. Oh, and then again, you've got the, instead of the knight, the word written, it's got a symbol. So again, this is Law of Attraction Tarot. Comes with a pretty good size book, and I'll actually just show you really quick. I've got it here beside me. I might not be able to get it all in frame. But it's got, for the major arcana, it's got a full page colored picture for all of the major arcana, and then whenever you get into the minor cards, it's just a smaller image with the text beside it. But it's a pretty good size book. It's got some spreads in it at the back. It's got 158 pages. So it's a pretty good size guidebook that comes with it, which is good since this is such a unique deck. You kind of need a more detailed guidebook. But Law of Attraction. And here we have the Paulina Cassidy Oracle deck that I was telling you about earlier. This is the Faerie Guidance Oracle deck. The artwork is beautiful, just like all of Paulina's decks. I've worked with this deck a couple of times. I do enjoy it. I like the artwork. I like the different cards. I will say I'm a little disappointed in how small the deck is. Not card-wise, but I think it only has like 20-something cards in it. So when I first got it, I was kind of sad because I had been spoiled by like 44 card Oracle decks. However, once I started actually looking at the cards, I found that you didn't really need many more cards in this deck. It really kind of covers a pretty wide range of cards. It does have a positive vibe to it. I don't think there's really any kind of negative or darker feeling cards to it, which I like. It does have a very positive energy with it. I think I'm going to go ahead and just flip through all these since there's only 20-something of them. This is actually a deck that I've wanted for years, and Llewellyn had a very big sale recently on their website on their tarot, on some of their tarot and oracle decks, and I found this for $13. So I had to buy it right away. I've been watching for this deck for over a year now, and I can never seem to find it for less than $28. So I was very happy with only paying $13 for this deck. But it's a lovely deck. Again, this one's called Faerie Guidance Oracle. The next two decks are my Colette Baron Reed Oracle decks. This one is the Wisdom of the Hidden Realms. I keep this one in the box because it is a pretty sturdy box that it comes in. Comes with a small guidebook, pretty thick. This is the back of the cards. And these cards are gilded in gold. I haven't worked with this deck since I got it. It's another one of my new decks. I bought this and then the next deck at the same time. I kind of, I do this thing where I buy a lot of decks at once, and then they sit for a while on my shelf because I don't want to work with a deck until I've had time to spend with it. So I just kind of keep them on my shelf until I'm able to sit down with the deck for a good period of time and read the book and really look at each card and try to develop my own feel for the card. So I have quite a few decks that I bought because I bought a really large number a few weeks ago all at once. So I have a good few that I haven't worked with yet, but I might as well still include them in my haul or in my collection video since they are part of my collection. Also, I should have said earlier, if you hear any background noise, my husband is in the living room watching TV, and he has it turned up kind of loud, so you might hear it every now and then while I'm being quiet. So I'm not going to go through the rest of the cards, but this is The Wisdom of the Hidden Realms by Colette Baron-Reid. And here we have the other Colette Baron-Reid Oracle deck that I bought at the same time as the last. This is Enchanted Map. I read online somewhere, I can't remember where, and they had recommended using these two decks together, so that's why I bought them at the same time. This also comes with a small guidebook. This is the back of the cards. And again, this one is gilded in gold. So when I was reading about these two decks being used together, they were talking about how this deck is more themed with situations, and the Wisdom of the Hidden Realms is more themed with specific people and energies. So that's why they recommended using them together. Because this is kind of like a deck that is about places, as the name would suggest, and the last deck is more about people. So I am actually excited to use these together. I think they'll work really nicely with one another. Okay, so that's the Enchanted Map. And here we have my Doreen Virtue deck, Magical Mermaids and Dolphins. This is actually the first Oracle deck I ever bought. However, it is my least used deck. I am not a fan of the artwork. Comes with a nice little small guidebook. It comes in a good cardboard box, but the artwork is just not really my thing. So this is the back of the cards. This is very, I don't know, it looks like a deck that was printed in the 80s to me. I don't know, it is it does look like a Doreen Virtue deck, so I should use it more often because I don't know, there's just something about it. I do like that it includes people of color, though. It just has such a big border, bulky border. The images are very small on these cards. Like, this card doesn't even look like it belongs in this deck. Like, it's a drawn card, and this one is like more looks like a photograph of a person, and this is like a cartoon. I don't know. It just gives me a weird vibe. It feels like multiple decks in one for me. The artwork just doesn't flow. So that's the Magical Mermaids and Dolphins deck. And here is my Oracle of the Mermaids deck by Lucy Cavendish. This is my most used Oracle deck. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. Take that back. The next deck I'm going to show is my most used deck. I do love the artwork in this deck. It's beautiful. I love the mermaids in here. I have to try to make these last few quick because my battery's dying. Just gonna go through a few more. As you can tell, these are pretty good sized cards. I can't fit them in the frame. This has some beautiful imagery. So there's Oracle of the Mermaids. And this is my most used Oracle deck. This is the back of the cards, which I don't like. This is the Oracle of the Shapeshifters by Lucy Cavendish with artwork by Jasmine Beckett Griffith. She is one of my favorite artists. She lives here in Florida, and she has art exhibits in Orlando all the time, and hopefully I will get to go to one someday. She has a couple Jasmine Beckett Griffith has a couple decks coming out this year, and I cannot wait. They're going to be wonderful because one of them is mermaid themed, which is going to be perfect for me. I'm so excited. Her artwork is great. I love this deck. I love the feel of it. I love the theme of it. I love everything about this deck. It is my favorite Oracle deck so far. So, Oracle of the Shapeshifters. And here's my final deck that I'm going to show you, and this is my most recent Oracle deck. This is Oracle of Shadows and Light, again by Lucy Cavendish, with artwork by Jasmine Beckett Griffith. This is a newer deck, so I haven't actually worked with this one yet, but some of the artwork is very... this is one of my favorite images. There are some things in this deck that I don't like, some cards that I don't like. So that's one of the reasons I haven't worked with this deck yet. I didn't really get an instant connection with it when I pulled it out of the box. Obviously the artwork is wonderful. It's just some of the cards, some of the themes and the kind of words on them that I'm not so sure about. I like all these little witches cards. The artwork is wonderful. It does kind of have a darker theme than a typical oracle deck, which I enjoy that. Seems like a good deck that would be good to use during Halloween time. Samhain. So there we have it, Oracles of Shadows and Light. So that's my tarot collection and my oracle collection. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope it kind of maybe showed you some decks that you weren't so familiar with, or that you may have been interested in and you wanted to see a little bit more of. If you have any questions about any of my decks, please just leave me a comment below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.